My name's Colette, for those of you that I haven't met yet. My specialty is, they call it pedigreed seed because, and I refer to it as any seed that doesn't come in a bag is my responsibility. So pulses, cereals, flax, but I'll start with our varieties. This first one to the left is CS Jake. So it's a brand new variety from the U of A and Dean Spanner's program. And what it is, it's an early maturing wheat. The thing with Jake is we had 2 out of that program out of Dean Spanner's. So this hasn't been released yet. This year, this fall, will be its first release year. It competes in that category with Red Water and the Red Berry. It has an improved protein package on it. So it had really good protein. It also responds to growth regulator fairly well. We had it in our plots last year at Olds, which is some pretty rich soil. And what we did was we had 2 ranges. And the first range we left untreated. The second range we treated with manipulator. And both our Track and our Jake shortened about this much. So, and it ended up about this tall. It is, you know, for the height, and then it went and stayed this height on our manipulator. So, but it strengthened the stem and it looked really good. So we also have some manipulator trials in Manitoba for these varieties that they're multi-rep, and so we'll have some really good data on how much it actually shortened the variety, because I know with these type of varieties, a lot of people are using growth regulators. So Crossfield, this is its 2nd year out. Last year, with the dry conditions to start, and then we had wet and we had cool, Crossfield struggled a little bit as far as yield and standability. It is a semi-dwarf, so it has a semi-dwarf gene in it. Still a really nice variety. I think it got a really rough ride last year, and last year was its first release year. So all of a sudden you put it out in commercial release, and if you have the wrong set of conditions, and I think it had a myriad wrong set of conditions, and it just didn't yield, whereas I think last year's conditions, Penhold yielded fairly well and stood fairly well, so comparative. But Crossfield, long term, our data shows, and our production field shows that it's about 5% higher yielding than Penhold. But if you have some really rich, heavy soils, and lodging is a huge, major concern, then you really have to look at the variety that has the best stem strength, and Penhold has some better stem strength. But this one is still a really good variety. I think it just got a rough ride last year. So from Harpinder's program, improved protein on it, and it does yield, because I saw it in production fields for 5 years before last year. So still a very good variety, but it's tough when a guy has a bad experience the first year. This is our AAC Connect, and actually it's maturing quite quickly. It's moving along pretty quickly. So this is, I would say, a new malt barley, but let's not get it wrong. It's not a semi-dwarf barley. It's still a Canadian barley, and under you know, really, really good winds and rain, it'll still go down. So people think about, when they say better standability, their mind automatically goes to the semi-dwarf wheats. And other than some feed barleys that are starting to come into the market, we're not there in terms of malt barley yet. So it's better standability than the Metcalf and the Copeland, but we're not in the semi-dwarf wheat category yet, but it's still pretty good. And the yield potential is great on it. And the biggest thing with this is the maltsters and the brewers seem to really like it. It's taken off in the US, which also helps our pull. And Viterra's contracting for this up in the Peace this year, and they're moving some over into China now too. So we're starting to get some good acceptance with this, which is what matters with a malt barley. I can sing all the agronomic praises in the world, but if nobody's going to take it, then you know, it's no good for nothing but cow feed, right? So we're really happy that this is moving along, but these take a lot of work, at least 5 years before you start to get some you know, over that hump. You're over that hump in 5-6 years, one way or the other. You're either leaving or you're going in the right direction. This is our new variety. So this will be its first major release year. It comes out of our partnership with Lima Grain Cereals Research Canada. Really good yields. really good yield potential. I think the long-term data says about 5%, but we've seen spikes of 115%, so depending on the conditions and where it is. The cool thing about this variety, really good standability. The really cool thing about this variety is it has really good grain quality. So in eastern Western Canada, so Manitoba, it's under the Warburton's program. So they actually are contracting, and so this is the first CPS wheat that Warburton's has put under their program. So they really like the grain quality coming out of this. Does it mean much for your guys? Well, maybe if your elevators think it's something special. All right, so this is our CS Camden. So it's our milling oat. So Camden does have improved milling quality characteristics. So the millers, it's on the recommended variety list for milling. The thing about Camden and its #1 strength is its standability. It's AB Wrangler. You can see the standability is not as good on this one, and it's not meant to. We picked up this variety as a forage silage variety. It's kind of a replacement for our cowboy. It's got great biomass and it's got some really good feed numbers on it. This is kind of, won't necessarily replace our Canmore, but it has got some great forage numbers, and the grain yield on it is extremely good, and it tillers. So you can see it's a really thick crop and a really thick canopy, so lots of biomass, lots of stuff. In the drier areas out east, the yield gap between Austinson and this one gets even better because a taller variety under drier conditions will give you a better yield gap. So this is what you'll get out of it, right, under heavy conditions, but it is a thick crop. Not this year, not this fall, but the following fall Wrangler will be available. And to seed growers, of course, we'll have foundation seed this year. This is our Aac Comfort. This is a green pea. Doesn't have as much, green pea acres aren't as large as the yellow pea. The Comfort has a larger pea. It's about saffron size, so it's about that 250. It pods usually, so both the Carvers and the Comforts are from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, and you would typically, they'd be about here. So, and the same with the Carvers. And I find that they came out of the same program. They knit very well together. The big difference between these greens is this is a mid to late. The Carvers are early, and they're our yellow pea. You guys are probably familiar with them. They're a wonderful yellow pea. A lot of people that used to grow meadows really like the Carvers. For an early maturing variety, they can yield. So we're really happy with them. Good seed size, anywhere from that 220 to 240 type of deal. They can vary, but the seed coat breakage on them is very good. So they don't break apart. A really solid pea. So the only kink is if they are about a protein bump lower than some of these high protein peas that are coming out. So if you're after a specific market where guys are after high protein peas, and I think they make up with it on yield too, so, and quality. All right.